What's going on? SEVelocity back here. Next podcast, we got NBA Finals week. It's been a little bit late. You got 4th of July holiday weekend, so I hope everyone had a good weekend. Did it something fun, watched some fireworks, had some burgers and whatnot. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. How are you, sir? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm good. And you missed an important component to 4th of July weekend. I know it was a great weekend for you. Just to put it out there on the air, I did pay up. I bought Evan's wings and drink. He decided to be nice and chose not to go with alcohol. So he just had a Dr. Pepper, but I did treat him.
One beer or endless refills of Dr. Pepper. That was an easy choice. So that was great. The wings were good, fries were good, everything was perfect. Had a lot of fun. We got to talk some sports IRL instead of through the computer screen too, and can't wait until the next set of wings and drink.
It might be a while for that, depending on what our predictions are.
Yeah. Yeah, this is gonna be a tough series to predict, but first, let's talk about the Bucks versus Hawks. Uh, Real quick before we talk about the series itself, I want to say that Nate McMillan officially had the interim tag taken off his position, so he's no longer interim head coach. He's officially a head coach and signed a 4-year deal. So he will be
Well
permanently staying.
deserved.
Absolutely. Well deserved. I'm glad he got the contract. The team played really well. Um, with a lack of full star power, I mean, they had a deep bench, but lack of star power outside of Trey Young, that's a tough team to have to go far with, and they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. So absolutely deserved. A lot of good rotations. Now, let's talk about the Bucks and their performance. Uh, can't wait to listen to Kendrick Perkins because Chris Middleton had a great game, so that's going to be really annoying
Yeah,
to listen
I,
to.
I was gonna call you out on that. I think it's funny the third quarter and that three ball from Chris. That was something special to watch.
It was special to
I never,
watch.
I, I never seen him get hot like that in a
But that's
quarter
the point.
before.
That is the
Yeah,
point. It is not that often. He's inconsistent, and Kendrick Perkins acts like he is the best basketball player on this planet. So
it's hot and it's cold.
it's it was interesting to see which Chris Middleton we would see in the final few games of the series. I'm glad we
But
got to see
guess
the good
what?
one.
Yeah, it came out when they needed it to end the
Yeah.
series.
And watching him and Giannis hug at the end was really cool because you could see that it was a big deal to Giannis that Middleton was able to carry him at the end.
Honestly, overall, gotta highlight Giannis to show you what a great teammate he is, despite the fact that the man's knees are messed up. Like my mom was saying, Giannis, sit down before you mess up your knees
Yeah.
from all the jumping and cheering around. Like you could tell, like he was still happy for his teammates. Like he was hyping them up as though
Yeah.
he was one of those fans in the arena.
There,
Like that's just such a great teammate when your superstars doing that.
there's not a lot of superstars that are that supportive. Like I know there's a few, but like you watch Kawhi, he wasn't even sitting down there on the bench. He was sitting in the box seats in the stands.
Yeah, what
Like
that's exactly what I was talking about him before. Like it might not be necessarily a point where like him and his teammates had beef or anything, but like he just kind of dismissive towards them, and that's a sign right there.
yeah. So
I
like
mean, look at LeBron. LeBron's always courtside. Sure, he's had games where he's sipping on a glass of wine, but he's always
yeah,
there courtside.
and um, I know there's been a few stars that make excuses too for losing the series. I don't. I don't think Kawhi Leonard said anything, but the first thing Paul George said is the only reason we didn't make it to the finals was because Kawhi Leonard wasn't there. And I just want to say Kevin Durant averaged like 40 plus points a game, and he didn't say a single word after he got eliminated. He didn't say whose fault it was or anything.
Well, I mean, in a way that's different. One, even though Hobble Kevin Durant did have James Harden with
Yeah,
him, and in Paul George case, I mean, on the one hand, it could be an excuse, but at the other hand, it could also be him like just highlighting how important Kawhi is to the
yeah.
team, saying, "Oh, I know if I had that guy, we would win." So in a way, he was boosting his teammate. I
It's
think
just
it's a two-way street right there.
it's just shades of it's a bad shot from Damian
Mm,
Lillard.
yeah.
the last time.
He was absolutely right. But the thing is, not what he's saying isn't false though.
I know, but I for once give the other team credit because he didn't. I don't think he gave much credit to the Suns, and I think that they deserve more credit than they
Well,
got.
all right, but we can see that there was tension between the two teams, mostly because of Patrick Beverly.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
Pat Bev's a
yeah,
clown,
yeah. So I don't know. I think plus it was also heated a moment, frustration. So
and he got
you know,
suspended for a game next year. Pat Bev for his shove
oh
on Chris Paul.
yeah, good. I mean, you
He
go run
deserved it.
up behind the man, like I mean, at least go up to his chest.
Can we talk about how Frank Kaminsky? I don't know if you saw him in that shot. Uh, Chris Paul got shoved in the back from Patrick Beverly, and then Frank
Mm,
Kaminsky was right next to Chris Paul and Patrick Beverly, and he goes up to Pat Beverly, he goes like this. The lightest shove in the world, just as retaliation. I'm sorry, if my star player or one of my star players gets shoved like that from behind, like I'm gonna be livid and I'm gonna get right in the guy's face. But he just did a light shove and walked away, and there was a lot of people who were angry about that. I saw Twitter was had Frank Kaminsky
where,
trending at one point too, because he didn't really do much to defend Chris Paul.
where was he one of the assistant coaches?
Frank Kaminsky?
I don't. Yeah,
That he's
or the
like the
rest.
10th man. He's one of the players.
Oh, one of the players.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Don't
no
worry.
wonder I don't know.
Don't worry. You're
Yeah.
only talking about one of my favorite college players.
Well, I don't really follow college ball. He hasn't made
It's
his name in
okay.
the league yet.
Yeah, he hasn't transitioned at
He's
all
not
into the
relevant.
NBA.
Yeah, he's not relevant to me. Yeah, he hasn't
Yeah.
passed the Sean test. When I know your name, that means you can play.
He used to start and come off the bench a bit for the Hornets, and then he went to the Suns, I believe, this year or last year. Um,
Hmm.
but besides that, I mean, shout out to the Suns. They played really well. They're the best team. I mean, I predicted them winning the finals, or I don't know if I predicted them winning or losing to the Nets. I know I had them in the finals for the West.
Yeah, I think you had them losing to the Nets.
Um, Reasonably so. Injuries kind of ruined that for the Nets, but I'm glad the Suns proved what they were worth, and they looked really good towards the end of the season, and that transitioned into the playoffs. But what were you saying before? You want to add anything?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna swing back to like the Bucks and Hawks again.
That's what I was gonna say.
I mean, I what I found really interesting, the Hawks, and this was insane. I think it was third or maybe even fourth quarter when Cam Reddish stepped on the court and just got hot out of nowhere. Like that was something to behold.
He's got a lot of
Like that
promise.
was insane.
I know we flamed
Yeah.
him a couple weeks ago and said he's not established in the NBA yet, but like he's
Well,
developing way quicker towards the end of the season than he did at the beginning.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't say we flamed it. It was more so like his defensive presence
Yeah,
isn't enough to be shutting down Chris Middleton.
yeah, superstar, yeah, or
Yeah.
star, not superstar.
And that's for Trey. I mean, you could tell like again the ankle was bothering him.
Yeah,
Like like he wasn't really getting have his legs under him like on the jump shots. Like you could tell like he was barely getting up. And he's a high jumping jump shooter and getting to the rim. Like he didn't really have that explosive first step.
yeah, and I want to give a shout out still to Giannis too, because before he got hurt, he was playing really well in that series, and
Yeah.
I think that everyone will probably forget that since they won the last two games without him, but he did play really well. Now I want to talk about Bobby Portis because I remember a couple nights or a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I think I told you that with the rebounding department that the Bucks would need to maybe play Bobby Portis more, as opposed to maybe Brook Lopez to just get more rebounds or put him in the lineup. And obviously they decided to put both of them together, which I thought was an interesting decision. But they complement each
Mm.
other really well. Like Bobby Portis is very much a good rebounder, and I think Brook Lopez primarily is more about scoring and just overall defense. And
Oh yeah, we saw that big scoring game
that
from him
33,
before.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like that combo with both of them worked really well, and I think that John Collins and Clint Capella in a sense got eaten alive down low. And I think that's where the Hawks kind of lost the game. Uh, I don't think any of their guards played that bad. Bogdanovich played really well. Herder didn't show up. He shot 2 for 10. Um,
Yeah.
but we always expect him to be spotty. Gallinari played pretty well. Um, But John Collins is one of those people where you want to get at least 20 from him. I know because we all know he's capable of it, and I know he had like 13 and 11 rebounds. But I think and he shot well, but I think he was more concerned about defense and rebounding because of Portis and Brook Lopez, and
Yeah.
there's not much you can do. I mean, and then Trey Young shot really bad in the first half, but you're going to give the ball to your star player when he's your only star. So I don't have any
Yeah.
anger towards Trey Young for not showing up.
Yeah.
He was injured.
He
He had a
he was
bad
hurt.
ankle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of. I'm not going to compare it to like Kevin Durant and his Achilles, but it's one of those senses where you're on the brink of elimination, so I'm going to do everything I can to play. So like I completely understand him getting off to a slow start, and that's what happened with James Harden with the Nets this year too. When his first game back, he didn't play well. So it's
Yeah.
he played really well late in the game though, Trey. But it's too little, too late. They were down by a lot.
Well, I mean, even then, late in the game, he only made like one basket. He was still missing a lot overall.
Yeah,
First and second half, it was a bad game for him.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing you could do when you're injured. It is what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously you want more points from him, but
Yeah.
shooting more
Yeah.
17 wasn't.
I don't blame him. I mean, that just shows a lot of toughness him being out there.
Yeah, and
Now,
he had 9 assists too. So like he did other
eh,
things on the court.
oh yeah, I forgot to point out Drew Holiday had a good game. I mean, Drew Holiday, like he just shows up.
If we have to, yeah, we have to give him credit too, because he was on Trey Young a lot.
Yeah.
And we got to give him credit, and we also have to give him credit for his scoring too, because like this isn't the first game he scored 20 plus. He scored 30, I think, in the first 2 games, and
Yeah.
we have to listen to Kendrick Perkins say that he needs to step up more than 30. So I don't understand. I'm
Drew
sorry,
Holiday.
I'm a Kendrick
Drew
Perkins hater
Holiday.
now.
Drew Holiday fills his roles. Perks is capping on that.
It's just the most outlandish thing. Now the state of Giannis's health is going to be obviously a big factor in the finals, but
Yeah, is he expected to play the first game? Do you know?
I don't think so. Similar to
Okay.
Kawhi, we're not hearing a lot, which tells me I don't think it's going to be good news. I would
Oh
say
well.
if he does play, because he has a hyperextended knee, I would say probably game 3. I would say is where we might see him come back. First game in who's got home court? Is it Milwaukee or is it Suns?
Let me check
I'm gonna
real quick.
here. I got you. So Milwaukee had 46 wins. Phoenix had 51. So Phoenix has home court. That's what I figured. Um,
Okay.
So I expect Giannis to be back by their if he's going to play at all in the series, I expect him to be back by the first game in Milwaukee, game 3. Um,
Okay. Well, whatever happens, I trust it's they're really trying to be careful with his
yeah.
knee. I would never accuse Giannis of load management like other people.
No, yeah, he's because he's one of those people that always talks about winning a title. That's the biggest thing on his mind, and he's also one of those people that doesn't like to be buddy buddy with everyone in the league. Like you have those superstars that like kind of are like a fraternity and they work out together in the off season. He
Yeah.
likes to work out on his own. He wants to beat those guys, and he says it all the time. He likes to keep to himself. So
I'm not even thinking about that. I think he just looks like one of those guys like Steph, for example, who just has fun being out there on the floor. Like he just
yeah,
loves being on the floor.
and he's just yeah. I don't think he would ever rest intentionally. I think he's definitely gonna play if he can. Um,
Yeah.
Now let's talk matchups. Before we get into predictions and everything, let's talk about the matchups themselves, like player matchups. One of the most exciting ones for me, at least, is Chris Paul versus Drew Holiday. I think that's going to be a really good matchup.
Here's the thing with that. I think Drew Holiday is gonna be guarding Devin Booker.
Yeah, I mean that would be. I think that would probably make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of lineup they're going to send out, but let me tell you, if Giannis is out and it's Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez on DeAndre Eaton, that would be a lot more difficult. Because who's playing power forward for the Suns? It's my Jay Crowder, right? He's sliding over to power forward, I
Yeah.
think. So
Yeah, and he's only 6'6".
I was gonna say that matchup doesn't bode well necessarily for Eaton because he's going to be kind of alone. Um, but I would really like that from the Bucks if they don't have Giannis. Um,
Hopefully Middleton can do what he has to do against Bridges.
that's the other thing. So keys to winning for each side. I think the Suns just kind of have to be themselves. I think it's the Bucks that are gonna have to play on a higher tier to get a win. Um, especially
Hmm.
well if they don't have Giannis, especially. I think if you have like Giannis and Middleton versus CP3 and Booker, you might have a really good matchup, and it comes down to DeAndre Eaton and the big men for the Bucks. But
Yeah,
without Giannis, you need Middleton to play really well, and we've seen countless times that he either shows up and drops like 35, 40, or he drops 10 and loses the game. So you
yeah.
can't really. I don't even think in between would be helpful. He has to play his best to get
But the
wins.
thing is, but what's different now is that when Middleton does hold up, you have another guy you can rely on to step up in Drew Holiday.
Yeah,
So
it's just I don't know if Drew Holiday is going to be enough versus Booker and Chris Paul because those guys can put up 30
yeah,
at any time. Um,
yeah,
I so who do you think's going to guard CP3?
yeah. I was looking at the roster. Like, so the starting five for Milwaukee right now has been Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, PJ Tucker, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. Guarding, that's the thing. I'm gonna say I feel like they might end up putting Middleton on CP3. Not totally sure, but I feel like it's gonna because they always usually put Tucker like on the more bigger guys.
I think
But
Crowder
then
is going to be on Middleton in regards for the Suns defense.
yeah,
Um,
I'm thinking Tucker. I don't think it's ideal to have him on like small guards because since he's like a heavy guy, I think he does better against guarding forwards.
so maybe Tucker will guard Jay Crowder, and then he'll
Yeah,
probably have Eaton versus. Oh, actually, I don't know. You if you have Bobby Portis, where would he be put in the lineup? So maybe you have Brook. I would put Brook Lopez on Eaton, and I guess Portis on Crowder, but that's kind of a mismatch. And then you would have to slide
Tucker on
Tucker
Chris.
Tucker on Bridges probably, and then
Yeah,
Middleton on Booker or Paul, and then Drew Holiday on the other.
yeah. Honestly, I feel like it would actually be better to just have Middleton guard Bridges and have Tucker on or Chris Paul. Not only because of height, but because of like what they're going to contribute. Like they're going to need more offense out of Middleton, and we know PJ Tucker, all his energy goes in on defense. So having him handle like arguably maybe even their most important offensive piece will be ideal.
It's like I think PJ Tucker should start. I just don't know what they would do if Giannis comes back. Like I guess you
Yeah,
would keep pulling Fortis off the bench, but I think that lineup was actually really powerful, and I think they're starting to realize that those two centers did really well together. So like it would be cool to see both of them stay in the lineup and Giannis slide to small forward, and then Middleton I guess kind of play shooting guard with Drew Holiday
yeah.
point guard, and have Tucker come off the bench. But that would be I don't know. Or you could I mean no one would ever bench Middleton at the start of the game, but like having Middleton come off the bench with 35 40 minutes instead um, to give Giannis rest would be good too. But
Mm,
there's a lot of combos you can go with. I obviously think Giannis and Middleton will be together most of the time, but they do both well enough without each other.
yeah.
Um,
You know, I have an interesting question for you because it's something that I pondered in my head throughout. We know Devin Booker like it's a star of the team, like he's the number one option. But throughout this postseason in particular, do you think it's fair to say that Chris Paul's been the best player on the Suns overall in the postseason? If on the games that he's played and like has been healthy.
yeah, I think so. There was only one bad game that comes to mind. I think it was his first game back against the Clippers, where he didn't play
Yeah,
that good.
back from injury.
But like the
Yeah,
biggest thing is even if he's not dropping 30, he's usually resourceful in other aspects, whether it be defense
yeah,
or distribution. Whereas Devin Booker's had a couple of those 15-point games, and they're not necessarily bad games, but they're not contributing as much as a team. Like he's not doing much else outside of that. So
yeah.
he's getting a couple boards, a couple assists, but I think Chris Paul contributes more when if they both have a bad game,
Yeah,
or
I
off
think,
game.
and in particular, Chris Paul being out there really maximizes what DeAndre Ayton does.
I I wonder. I think that Chris Paul is probably going to be the focal point in this series. I think that Devin Booker, he might cook and everything, but I think that the Bucks are going to focus on containing him and forcing Chris Paul to be the primary person. um,
Yeah.
which would be interesting. I think that he can handle it. So,
Yeah,
um,
I actually want that so bad because I want like I'm telling everyone right now I'm rooting for these Suns to go all the way. I want Chris Paul to get Finals MVP. No disrespect, Devin Booker. He had many more years to
yeah,
come, but now it's Chris Paul's time. Like your boys LeBron and D Wade's done it. It's your turn. It's your moment.
I'm gonna be really disappointed in the series if Giannis doesn't play though. Like it would be really cool to see. Like so, out of your opinion, who do you think Giannis would guard and get guarded by if he played?
Oh,
I would assume
whew.
Crowder would guard him. I think that makes the most
Yeah.
sense for size wise. I don't because Eaton's too much of a mismatch against Giannis. Like he'll be too quick. Giannis will be too quick for him.
Yeah.
Crowder is the most similar in size, and he's got good power to kind of deal with him on the post if he has to. Obviously he doesn't want to face him on the post, but I can't imagine
Well,
anyone else on that team would be a better matchup though.
the thing, yeah, he has the strength deal with Giannis, but the height is where it's gonna be a problem because
Yeah.
Crowder's only 6'6",
The problem is who
and
else would
Giannis
guard him though.
6'11". Yeah, definitely not putting bridges on him.
Yeah.
But honestly, I doubt they're gonna have anyone really guard him 1-on-1. They're probably gonna do like a zone type of thing
Yeah.
because they actually have the roster to actually like somewhat have a wall in the paint that's having Aiton down there.
Yeah, so the Suns have a good zone, especially against the Bucks too. That's probably who you'd like. They kind of lack in 3-point shooting. I mean, outside of like Middleton will have games where he's 0-7, and then he'll have games where he's hot, like the other day. So like outside of containing Middleton, you have to worry about like Holiday a little bit, but Giannis doesn't shoot threes that often, and then PJ Tucker doesn't shoot at all, and Brook Lopez is kind of like he's in the middle. I don't think you really have to guard the 3-point line as fiercely as you would against like the Hawks, especially like with Bogdanovich or Trey Young, or even Herter. It's going to be a way different scheme. But Monty Williams knows what he's doing, so I think he understands that. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Who are you rooting for to win it all?
that's a tough call. I want to see Chris Paul. Like this is the worst case scenario. I mean, I think if we talked about this before the playoffs, if you asked me my two favorite teams in the playoffs, I would have told you the Suns and Bucks. And here we are, it's the Suns versus the Bucks. Like if I had to pick one from each side, that's who I would pick. And
Hmm.
now they're facing off against each other. I've always loved Giannis, so I would love to see him win a title. Um, but I also want to see CP3 win a title. Here's my thing. I think that next year, I think CP3 obviously is going to be back with the Suns. I think the Suns have a better chance of being where they are right now next year than the Bucks do. So part of me
Yeah.
wants to see the Bucks win because I don't know if they're going to be able to get there again. Like you're going to have to run through most likely.
Mm,
So think about it. You're going to have to run through Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Harden probably
I
healthy,
know.
most likely.
I know. It's essentially primarily Brooklyn where you gotta have to worry about in the Bucks. But then I'm thinking again next year for the Suns,
You got
they're
the
gonna
Lakers
have to
too.
LeBron and AD are gonna be there. Jamal Murray's gonna be back for Denver.
Yeah, but I like again, the West is a more duo based where I don't know if anyone can deal with a trio. So like I think the Suns
But I'm-
will at least have a closer series against the Lakers than the Bucks would against three All-Stars.
but then the Clippers as well. This that but you see, but that's the thing. There's more of a plethora of the duo and role player scheme stuff happening on the West, whereas the East you just really have that big three-headed dragon.
That's all it is. It's just I mean like and then you have some other team with their star who has a broken shot and has no clue what he's doing.
Oh my god! Like I'm not even gonna.
I didn't
I'm
say
not
his
even
name.
gonna say a word about. I know, but I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say a word. You're not gonna hear me say another word about the Philadelphia 76ers on this show unless it's about trade rumors
Yeah.
and I'm gonna it's funny hearing this come from me. I'm gonna admit it. I am going to pull a Skip Bayless when Kawhi Leonard when he claimed Kawhi quit on his Spurs and he refused to call him by his name and start calling him number two. I from to this day on I am calling Ben Simmons number 25 No, hell with that. I'm calling him the brick.
Yeah.
So unless I hear trade rumors from the brick, I'm not saying a word about the Sixers. I'm not talking about them or winning titles or anything. I don't even care if I see him putting more IG videos out there, him shooting jump shots in the gym. I don't. I'm fed up. Like I'm gonna have mental trauma thinking about them.
That's right.
I'm all in on the Heat. All in on the Heat.
So
So
I
go ahead.
I want to add with the Suns and the Bucks and talk about them getting there next year. I think that while Milwaukee's a good team, for some reason a lot of good players don't want to sign with them. Maybe it's the destination. I feel like Phoenix is a
Just like
more
Cleveland.
yeah, I feel like Phoenix is more of an attractive destination. So like I feel like Phoenix is also more likely to bring in better talent. Like you don't need more,
Mm.
but they could find probably good starters, maybe to take Jay Crowder's spot. I mean, Crowder's good, but to be even better than Crowder. I think they're more likely to pull in more talent or a deeper bench than Milwaukee is. So part of me wants Milwaukee because I don't think they're going to be back there again, or potentially in the next 5 years, unless the Nets break apart and all go to separate teams.
And we never know what could happen. Those two, especially KD and Kyrie, especially
But
Kyrie, fickle as a pickle.
here's what I wish. I wish that Giannis and Chris Paul were on the same team because it would be really easy for me then. Because those are the
Yeah.
because I'm more rooting for player oriented than team oriented, and those are the two guys I want to see
Yeah.
win a title specifically. So it's
Hmm.
because like Giannis is a workhorse, and I know he's gonna struggle to get here again because he doesn't have a lot of help. I know Chris Middleton's there, but like again, he's that weird in between a star and like not necessarily a superstar. And I feel like Chris Paul's gonna have Devin Booker for a while too. So like they're I don't know, they're kind of on an even base. But you have DeAndre Eaton too as the person to push them over. So and I think he's only gonna get better. So I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Suns could be there again next year. I don't think I could pick a team to root for. I'm just gonna watch, enjoy. Um, Prediction, however, though, I will tell you that I think the Suns win in six. If Giannis
Yeah.
plays all 70 games, I'll go with controversial and say Bucks in seven.
Okay. I am gonna say Suns in five if Giannis doesn't come back. Like if he doesn't play like within the first two games, I have Suns in five.
Yeah, I
Because like if anything, I feel like the Bucks, if Giannis does play, I feel like they would win game one.
and I think the biggest thing we haven't talked about too, when you compare the Suns and the Bucks, is the Suns are just like a higher IQ. Like their chemistry is like flawless and everything. You see the Bucks, they make a lot of mistakes. They'll fumble the ball or something. It's not necessarily like just a normal mistake. Sometimes they make bad decisions. Whereas the Suns are very fluent in their game and they have a plan going into each drive or each play sequence. So I think that they're
And
just more structured, which I think works better. So
And again, it also helps when you have a high IQ primary ball handler and Chris Paul, who acts
yeah,
as the coach's right hand man, like an extension of the coach out there on the floor.
yeah. Ranking coaches: number one, Monty Williams; two, Chris Paul; three, Budenholzer for the finals. So just gonna say that I think that Chris Paul would be a phenomenal coach too, and I think he should consider that after he retires.
Yeah.
I think he would
So
be a better coach than Derek Fisher.
yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think we're gonna have any bets on this series. I think the only way we bet is if it goes to a game seven.
I think we can probably make bets on individual games as we go along. Um, I think that if Giannis plays the entire series, I think they'll lose the first game. I think he's going to take, similar to Trey Young, similar to James Harden, I think he's going to take a little bit to get readjusted after being off the floor for a week and a half. But if he gets to play full time, I think you'll start. I think he'll be the leading scorer in the series if he plays, like averaging points per game. I think he'll outscore Booker, and I think he'll outscore Middleton, and he'll outscore CP3. That doesn't mean he'll be the best player on the floor, but I think the highest scoring.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I'm just thinking of the
honestly,
matchups. He's just way. There's no good matchup for the Suns to put on Giannis. There's none. Like,
yeah. But the thing is, but if they do pull that zone and thing in the wall and they essentially force him to shoot like
yeah,
every other team does to to show that's his Achilles heel, then in that scenario, I think Booker will score him. But I mean, to be honest, Giannis he is the best player in the series though.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting him like if when he comes back and like obviously if he looks like the knee still bothering him, I won't hold it against him. But I expect him whether they win or lose to look like the best player in the series.
So you said Suns in five if Giannis doesn't play. If Giannis plays every game in the series, how? What do you think?
I'll give them one more game, Suns in six.
Okay. It's weird because I think that if you put any other East team, maybe outside of the Nets, fully healthy against the Suns, I don't think any of them match up well. But for Giannis and his size, and then having Middleton along with him, the Suns are one of those teams that kind of play more small than anything, and those two are very big for power forward and small forward. Or sometimes Middleton even plays shooting guard. Like those are two very big guys that are potentially really good mismatches if they're utilized correctly by Budenholzer and themselves. Um, I don't think any other East team, even the Sixers, would match up well against the Suns.
Yeah, and and it's funny that that team is so interesting because like I will continuously say on paper and given who they have, it should be the perfect matchup for them.
Yeah,
Like they represent like weaknesses in the Suns that they could exploit, but but we just can't trust the execution.
yeah, it's weird because like one's more. I know the Suns got a lot of pick and roll, but they're like the 3-point shooting team, I guess, in this series, while like the
Mm,
Bucks are like the big men in a sense. So
mhm.
I don't think the Hawks match up well because Trey Young and Bogdanovich versus Chris Paul and Booker, you're gonna get blown out of the water by Booker and CP3. And then Eaton's gonna eat alive Capella if that was the
Mm.
situation. The only matchup that you'd have would be like John Collins versus Jay Crowder. Um, whereas, and then the Sixers you'd have Embiid versus Eaton, and then you'd have No Name versus potentially Chris Paul or Devin Booker,
Bur- Bur-
probably Booker.
Burke would be on Booker,
Yeah,
but honestly, the way he is, I don't even trust the defensive player of the year in the season candidate. I feel like we would not see that level of defense out there.
and I don't think Tobias Harris would match up very well against Jay Crowder either, because they're kind of similar in size. I think Tobias Harris is the better player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't
Yeah,
think it's as beneficial as a matchup as like Giannis versus Jay Crowder.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah,
well, yeah, obviously, but even just overall size, that's what I mean.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, and oh yeah, Seth Curry too. It's just it wouldn't be good enough.
Mhm.
I mean, the
No,
Knicks would blow out the Suns, no problem.
okay. Yeah, forget. Yeah, it gotten to the point where the Knicks fans, what they do is root for the opposing team superstars just to put on a show in the Garden. You might as well call Knicks games the second Big Apple
Hey,
Circus.
that's what I used to do when I went to Magic games. I would root for whichever team they were facing to have their player go off. When I went to the Bucks versus Magic game, I just wanted Giannis to drop 50 and hope for the best.
Now, do you think right now, Mike Budenholzer's job is on the line?
No, no.
Okay.
I don't think he's necessarily a fundamentally sound coach. I think he's probably better than Jason Kidd was when he was there. But I don't think he's necessarily like the cream of the crop. I don't think he's like a great coach. I don't think he's like one of the best in the league or anything. I think he's kind of gone there over more with talent, and I think that he should have known sooner to have Portis and Lopez potentially together on the court at the same time, even if Giannis is around. Um, I think there was a lot of stuff he missed that made the series longer for against the Nets too, even. A lot of mistakes he made. So I I think Nate McMillan was a better coach. I think that Monty Williams is a better coach. I think he's a better coach than Doc Rivers, at least right now. Um,
Hmm.
but the thing is, you're also at a point where who would you hire in his place? So that's kind of that situation. There's no one that would be better that would replace him. I mean, an
Yeah,
interesting
that is
idea
true.
is what if Brad Stevens coached the Bucks? I think that one might be interesting. But now he's a
Yeah,
general manager trading first round picks with star players for less, for whatever reason. But
yeah. It's funny. It's also funny how a coach who, outside of what's his name, Jason Tatum's first year in the playoffs, outside of that, doesn't really have an impressive resume
yeah,
in the NBA, and yet he elevates up to a GM spot.
yeah, I I would really like to see Nate McMillan as the coach of the Bucks. I know it won't happen because obviously he just signed a 4-year contract. But him having Giannis and some of those really good bench players and starters to work around, I feel like he can make a lot of magic happen with his formations and his lineups. I think that would work really well. Uh, Monty Williams too, but I had Nate McMillan specifically because I know he does a lot of, I won't say analytics, but he does a lot of research into what would work and what wouldn't. Um,
It's it's funny, like concerning the Suns and CP3. One day I saw a post somewhere. I think it might have been Bleacher Report, and they're saying that if Chris Paul like chooses to use his player option, there's a chance he might end up with the Lakers.
I don't think he leaves.
I don't think so either.
I think that because he said the whole reason he wanted to go to the Suns was, Devin Booker was the main reason, and then he has such a close relationship with Monty Williams. What's the point of leaving? That's someone that's been there in your career almost all your life, and you have a close
Hmm.
relationship with Booker too. Why would you leave, especially with how far you've gone? You
Yeah,
do now you're at a point where it's not about rebuilding or anything. You're at a point where it's like let's add chips to this to make this team even stronger. Um,
yeah.
I mean, I think an interesting option would be like, what if you had like Victor Oladipo go to that team? He wouldn't start necessarily, but he'd be like, James Harden on the Thunder kind of thing, come straight off the bench, and that'd be a huge second win for your team when someone like Chris Paul needs a rest. Um,
Well, well, hopefully that guy does a lot of things for my Heat this year. Since well, I obviously knew we weren't going to get anything out of him this year.
yeah,
But next year, we need a bunch of stuff. Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, South Beach is where it's at.
I think the Suns need to throw anything they can at getting a power forward, like a real power forward.
Yeah,
I like
Cra-
Crowder.
get Chris
He's a
get
good
Chris
bench player.
Dobbs.
Yeah. Okay. No, absolutely not. I don't think he would fit that
Why
team.
not?
I
What do you mean? Have a stretch big that tall?
he doesn't play defense.
Yes, he does. Oh yeah,
Mediocre
standing
defense.
inside. Yeah, well, all he has to do is stand there and intimidate people
I was
out
thinking more
inside.
Sabonis or John Collins would be really good. Uh, like John Collins might be a little bit less expensive because he's not necessarily a star for that team, but he's like a really good
Yeah.
starter. So if you can get like John Collins there and you shift Jay Crowder either to Bridges' spot or on the bench as coming off the bench, I mean that team is really good, and I think that you match up better than the Lakers because then you have AD versus either John Collins or DeAndre Eaton, which is obviously AD is going to be better, and then you have LeBron to worry about, but like now you have 3 or 4 really good starters for only LeBron and AD to have to deal with, and Dennis Schroeder, who we don't even know if he's going to be on the team anymore because Magic Johnson said he's not a Laker.
Well, I don't think we even have to ask if we know or not. He's not going to be there.
No, I
That
wouldn't
that
keep
that
him after the way he played in the playoffs.
the Lakers, honestly, I think th- obviously LeBron and AD, that's a lock. Maybe even KCP. The rest of the role players, shuffle them,
I
throw
think
them in the deck.
I think they should try to trade for someone.
Oh, I don't know if you saw it, but I found this hilarious. Did you hear that LeBron had to bail Alex Caruso out
Oh, did
for
he?
something? Yeah, I
He
think he
I
got
I heard
arrested
he
for something.
I heard he made a post saying that he was going to bail him out, or he made some sort of post referencing that he would probably bail him out. Well, Alex Caruso, I'll give you the rundown. Was arrested in Texas for marijuana possession. He went to an airport
Okay.
with a marijuana grinder, Nothing else. And he forgot it was in his bag going into the airport.
Oh.
And he got arrested and charged with possession. Possession under 2 ounces, I believe. The thing is,
Hmm.
though, Texas is extremely strict, so that is equivalent to a misdemeanor offense and up to, I believe, 180 days in jail. I know this because I was just listening to something about it today. So, yeah, LeBron came along, I'm pretty sure, and bailed him out. But there's this NFL player I listen to, who Pat McAfee, who does his own podcast, and he was arrested before too, and he said that when you're famous enough, where even if you're Alex Caruso, you're considered a special inmate, which means that you can't be around anyone else in the general population. So he's put into like a glass cell by himself. So he didn't even get to
Hmm.
talk to anyone for the last 2 weeks, or have much contact with anyone until he was bailed out. But in any other state, he probably wouldn't have been in handcuffs, except for Texas. So it was very unfortunate. It was a bad decision. It is what it is. I don't necessarily agree with that law, but also laws are there to be followed. So you have to understand that you got to be more careful than that. So
Yeah.
I mean,
It's funny. As Stephen A. Smith would say, "Stay off the weed."
eh, yeah, I mean, so and it kind of goes to show you that there's the second NBA player seasons end, they kind of feel a little bit more laid back to be able to do stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
I believe that their testing for marijuana was reduced a lot for the NBA, if not reduced completely. But I know in the off season, I think maybe once they're in the season they might get tested. But I know in the off season they don't bother anymore because they used to do random drug tests. So
Hmm.
it's an interesting threshold. You got to be careful. You got to do it in a legal state and responsibly, of course. Um, but other than that, I mean, shout out to LeBron for bailing him out. And I think a lot of people were against Caruso being arrested. There was a lot of comments from players and even fans. ESPN, their Instagram comments were blowing up about how ridiculous it was that he was arrested. But rules are rules, so
Yeah.
not much you can do about it. Trying to think of anything else I wanted to talk about. Hmm.
Mhm. Ah, how do we think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be next year? For first of all, I'm not counting on it, but I feel like there might be, hopefully, a little bit more of an incentive for them, and you know who I'm saying when I say them, to actually to play in the games when they can play.
Hmm.
Um, do you think they're going to be better, worse, or pretty much the same next year?
I think their record is going to be better. Um, I think that we saw a lot of their games where they all were on the floor together, which was rare, and you could see that there was a little bit of a lack of chemistry. I think James Harden and Kevin Durant really worked well together, and I think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant work well together, but I don't think Kyrie and James Harden are there yet together.
Yeah.
Uh,
Remember, I said that predicted with you too. I told you Kevin Durant, he's literally the constant.
yeah,
You can have him and then have one or the other, but those two, they can't play together.
and I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If I have to pick only one of them to keep outside of Kevin Durant, I'm keeping James Harden, and
Yeah,
it's not a debate.
I think most people would.
Yeah, it's just James Harden's proved. He might not necessarily have the perfect handling like Kyrie does, but he's proved that he could play Kyrie's position pretty much better than him. And now Kyrie's sliding to shooting guard. So
He's just a way better all around player than
yeah,
Kyrie.
that's all it
Period.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
you need just someone. Whether Joe Harris needs to be better, he needs to be consistent. Uh, as a role player slash starter, and you need to also have more faith in your teammates. You don't need to do everything yourself. Um, I want to see the Lakers trade for somebody though, because I think they need one more piece to make a finals run. I would be intrigued by potentially Russell Westbrook if the Wizards choose to rebuild.
No,
Why?
I think it's evidently clear this year. Last year they were able to hide it a bit, but it was clear last year as well. The Lakers need shooters. Period. They need shooters.
They need playmakers. I don't think
They
they need
need
shooters. They need
shooter.
playmakers.
They need shooters. They
Listen,
need one. They need one other person who can bring the ball up the floor. And Magic Johnson says so LeBron doesn't have to every time someone to bring the ball up to him. Outside of
Westbrook
that,
could do that.
they need shooting.
But
Like they were one of the worst 3-point shooting leagues teams in the league,
here's why
arguably.
I say playmaking, because I feel like when you have LeBron and AD on the court, you have a lot of those other guys on the team that are afraid to shoot. Reasonably so. You got really good players on the court. LeBron is not necessarily a primary scorer. Prime the primary scorer. He could score. We know he's capable of that, but he
Yeah,
doesn't
a,
seem to want the primary scoring role. That is kind of designated to AD. But with
yeah,
that, AD can't be your primary. Well, he could be your primary scorer, but you need more playmaking outside of like. LeBron's capable of it, and he's capable of distribution. But if you want to take the load off LeBron at least slightly, Russell Westbrook would be able to facilitate that in a more balanced role. But
yeah.
I would say if you get Russell Westbrook, you need a really good shooter at shooting guard. I think that would be the
I,
key.
They don't need a shooter. They need plethora of shooters like that role players go off the ball. Cause what we seen LeBron excel at, he might be the best ever at it.
They need a
What's it
true
called?
center too.
Driving and kicking out. And Anthony Davis, the ball's dropped to him in the post when the double comes. Have shooters for him to throw it out to. The reason why they get double so heavily is teams. If you watch them, they don't hustle out running out to the perimeter. They want the Lakers shooting
Yeah.
threes.
Well,
Like we saw what happened against the Suns.
I think AD also. I don't think the Lakers can make the finals with AD being their center. I think he's capable, but I think if you play him at power forward, that team would be so
Yeah.
much better. Like if you had
I
a
think
true
I
center
think
play
so too.
center,
Yeah,
even like Brooke Lopez. I know he's old, but like he's been a center all of his life. So like if you get him there, and then you're able to let AD play power forward, where he's able to kind of slide out to the perimeter too every here and there, because he's a capable shooter, you would have a lot of good combos between him posting up and
yeah.
him shooting, and just being able to make a
I
lot more work.
I don't think Rick Lopez would be the ideal one solely because obviously the rim protection would be there, but the rebounding and whose job is on the court to primarily rebound is the centers, and that's going to have to be
I
AD.
That's fair. I think Bobby Portis would be interesting because he would be cheap too, since he's not the
Yeah.
starter.
Yeah, that's why I told you, like Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, they were perfect. Because honestly, outside of like, in terms of like, basketball points that you brought up, why I don't like having AD as center is because I'm scared of him getting injured.
Yeah,
Because like,
he's got to
because
do
like
way
he,
more.
yeah, and like he's gonna be getting hit a lot more. And like he's not a soft player. We know that.
Wait,
Like it's not that he's scared of contact, but he always gets hurt.
timeout, timeout.
Yeah.
We forgot they already have a true center.
I swear I am about to come off this line. I'm about to come off. This guy, he has to go. I do not care. He was never an all star to me. Never.
So,
He showed exactly. He literally showed how bad the Eastern Conference was.
hmm hmm
And if the audience doesn't know, it's Andre Drummond. My God.
what?
He-
Actually, I have a good
he-
one for you. What about Jonas
he-
Valanciunas?
yeah, I would like that because he can shoot too. Even Nurkic.
Yeah, Nurkic would be
Yeah.
a good budget one, because I think the Trailblazers are just about done with him because he's injury prone. Um, I think Nurkic would be good. I think that Valanciunas would be good. I had someone else on my mind. I can't think of it though. I mean, I obviously you can't get someone like Jokic. Um, Capella would be interesting because that's kind of all you really want him for. You don't want him for scoring necessarily, your center. You want him for just rebounding and defense. So Capella might be an interesting one. I can't think of anybody else. Vucevic, if the Bulls continue to rebuild, that would be a good one too. I mean, he was supposed to go to the Lakers at one point, but he never did. Um, I mean, Rudy Gobert,
I mean, well,
you don't
I
need him
think
to
he was.
score.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think the Jazz are gonna give him up. I mean, they did give him such a big contract, so
Christian Wood would be a good one from the Rockets. But I think that's one of their only few like glimmers in that lineup, so maybe not. Um, yeah, I mean,
DeAndre Ayton.
I think that if they can get a budget center and then a good point guard, that would be ideal. Uh, Actually, now that I think about it, Dragic is a free agent, so if they can get Dragic and then a center, I think that would be way better than Dennis Schroeder and having AD at center.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but still, I say no to Dragic. He's staying with my Heat.
I doubt it.
No,
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe you know what? Maybe Kemba Walker gets traded to the Lakers. Now that I think about it, because
that
the Oklahoma
yes.
City is one of those teams that likes to trade and get picks and then instantly ship off the guy that they get. So I could see them trading away Kemba right away to the Lakers for something and get another pick maybe. You could
Hmm.
probably get him a first from them, even though it would be like a 20th pick or something. Um, yeah, I would like that. Kemba Walker's a good shooter too, and then you just get a
Yeah,
budget center.
and we know he definitely has handles, so he can bring the ball up the floor to LeBron,
Yeah,
and they'll actually have to a legit playmaker, unlike people on that Celtics team who were just pretending to be playmakers.
I know a really good shooter on the Sixers that's been put on the trade block.
Did they put Seth Curry on the trade block?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
His
Thibault.
his initials are BS.
Yeah, everyone, I think it's time for this episode to come to a close. Um, we again, we love doing this. Coming out here talking basketball with you. Hope you enjoyed as well. Like, comment, subscribe, roast us, love us. Doesn't matter. We want those views. We want those subscribers. Tell your friends, tell your families to check in with us and just help us keep growing.
Yep. We love talking basketball. He's actually right. It is a good time to end. So, even though he definitely chose to end it there, he's right. Hope you all have a great week. Enjoy the first few games of the finals. He's got Suns in 5. I have Suns in 6. Unless Giannis plays full time, we'll see. Then I have Bucks in 7. Should be a really good series if Giannis is healthy. I like the matchups. Um, and have a good rest of your week. Enjoy